Now who wanna move close enough? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes and you let the city know you rock 'em, yeah, we got 'em, yeah, we fought 'em. Like that black and orange up on 'em, finger ball 'em, never stop it. To the beast and know 'em. Who they rockin' with the diamond stripes, flossing on the ring. Cincinnati, she's our queen, we gon' show the world.
What's up, everybody? This is Ted Karras for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincy Hat, and you're watching Bengals and Brews.
Yes, sir. We are going to talk a whole bunch of college football because there's like 17 games or something crazy today. We'll preview one of those games being Cincinnati and Nebraska. Maybe touch on some others if we have time toward the end of the show that are going to be going on tonight. Cincinnati, Nebraska kicks off at 9. But we'll start with a little bit of Bengals news since we are Bengals and Brews. So the Dalton Reisner signing became official today. Your boy Russ Yeast, we're on day 2 of Russ Yeast Watch. That's an official practice squad pickup at safety. They cut Devin Cochran, so I know Crypt Keeper's probably upset about that.
Right.
Because, he's always said about Devin Cochran and that I hate him. I don't hate him. But, I hate for anyone to lose their job. Hopefully he latches on somewhere else. But the move kind of came along with them picking up Javon Foster, who's a kid out of Missouri, who was literally a 4th-round pick just a year ago in the draft for Jacksonville. They also tried to pick up Jordan Jefferson, who was another 4th-round pick, kid who went to West Virginia and then LSU for a season. They were not awarded that waiver claim. He went to San Francisco, I believe it was, who had a higher claim than the Bengals. But they were able to get Javon Foster, and I love that, man. Andrew Coker's still on the practice squad. Why not bring in a Javon Foster for the offensive line at practice squad? See what he has. See if you can develop something. I mean, I had a 5th-round grade on him. He went in the 4th. Obviously, things hasn't panned out if he's getting cut after the first year. But there's some talent there. He wouldn't have been drafted that high. So I'm excited about all those moves and Reisner being official. He's wearing number 66. He was out of practice today, and he looks in good shape. He looks – I imagine, as we talked about, he won't be starting, but he will be active for the game day roster. And if Patrick's struggling, I think he'll be in there replacing him early in that game. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. Your thoughts on all the moves today?
Yeah, I know with Foster, I think they had him in for a visit, the Bengals did. So I know that they like players through the draft and kind of go back to them when they go out on the waiver wires. I think you had an excellent overview of him, some of his reachability, consistency, durability. So I think there's something to mold there, so definitely excited about that. Seeing Dalton out there for the first time, dude, he looks in incredible shape.
Yeah.
Like when you stack him next to Lucas Patrick, it's just like, holy cow, it's already, I can already, like, just to him, like, doing a stretch today, I was like, damn, he's already moving better.
I mean, him beside Mims would just be like, oh, man, you talk about just some freak-looking athletes on the offensive line. They both fit that mold of just dudes that are big and jacked at their positions. And, Chris, who did we cut for Reisner? It was Eric Gregory, the defensive tackle, who we thought was the most likely with 60 tackles. We didn't think it'd be Cross. I mean, we thought maybe it'd be Cam Grandy, but it was Gregory, which always made the most sense. And honestly, the fact they tried to pick up Jefferson, another D tackle in the waivers, is very interesting to me. So it does make you wonder, like, would that have also signified Howard Cross's spot not necessarily being as solidified as one might think if they could have picked that guy up, because they would have had to roster him on the 53 if that claim would have been successful. But and they still have a practice squad spot by cutting Cochran. So I would expect, unless he's claimed, because he'll have to go through the waiver process now, I would expect Eric Gregory obviously to be that last guy on the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think you still could see a few moving and shaking into the weekend. I don't think it's, done, because we've seen like players get waived before. Like they keep them on the practice squad and then they get waived and then they bring somebody else in. So yeah, I mean, they'll probably try to bring Gregory back on the practice squad. We do have that spot open, or they're going to hold it and see if any, what else is out there. So yeah, this is always kind of like, this week it's always kind of fun. It's almost like free agency reinvented, because like you see these players pulled in that you probably you've wrote about before, and
Yeah.
the Bengals obviously have had an eye on. I think listening to an interview from, I forget who he was in our scouting department, but they're always doing scouting on current teams and guys that they liked in the draft. And I usually think the Bengals' tendency, if those guys get released and they liked them during the draft process, they have a tendency to bring those guys back. So,
Yep.
Yep.
I think that's exactly what they did with Foster and what they were trying to do with Jefferson. 2 fourth-round picks, both from Jacksonville. And they thought, hey, they only been in the league a year. Why wouldn't you give guys like that a look? I'm all for it, honestly, because it's a practice squad spot, too, for Foster. So I love the move. Sindustry, is he drinking wine? Well, hello, Mr. Festy Pants. I thought it might have just been water.
No, this is just we'll have some booze in it when college football starts this evening. It's just a Diet Sprite right now.
Okay.
I don't know why I poured it in this thing, but
it's not a Diet Sprite. It's a Sprite Zero. It's Sprite Zero, I'm sure. Sprite Zero is elite. Is there a thing called Diet Sprite? Yeah, Sprite Zero.
Is it now? Is it just Sprite Zero now and not Diet Sprite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Most things is there's Pepsi Zero, there's Coca-Cola Zero, there's Sprite Zero, which is what I typically drink too when I'm not having one of these tasty little Miller Lights. But I'm so excited for football, I said, I'll pick up some more beer. Well, let's have a show. Why not?
I've been a type 1 diabetic since I was 5 years old. I'm 36 now, and I should probably know that it's just Sprite Zero instead of Diet Sprite. So
well, it still feels like that's all kind of new, the Zero. Everything used to be called Diet, but now they're doing without, like you said, the caffeine and stuff in. It's kind of the difference. So, But yeah, that's your Zero Cola breakdown for the show. Zero soda that I never call it. It's pop, but I
call it
soda
pop
for some reason. Yeah,
I'm a Midwesterner. You can't take me out the Midwest, no matter where I end up.
But that's the stuff on the Bengals. If anything breaks or, there's some stuff to talk about with the Bengals, we'll try to mention it. But this show is, as I said it, we're talking about college football because games kick off tonight, college football weekend. Obviously, we're going to deep dive right into the NFL season on Monday's show. We'll talk more Bengals on tomorrow's show. But today we wanted to have just a pop-up show and talk about college football, talk about our Buckeyes for me and Dustin. Talk about the Cincinnati Bearcats that people are a big fan of that are probably watching this show. So let's kick off with that game because it's the first one that we have. We have 6 games to kind of go through here if we can get to all of them. Cincinnati versus Nebraska. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, which tells me I probably won't be watching that game tonight. I know Boise State plays at 5:30 versus South Florida. So that's one I'll probably get to watch. And there's some other games at 7. I may tune in to watch some of those. Probably won't get to watch the 9 o'clock one, but you might, being in a different time zone.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, this is where Mountain Time Zone for football watching is pretty elite because NFL on Sunday start at 11. And then college football, 10 o'clock for the Texas-Ohio State game is a little rich. But when it comes to evening sports, it's kind of nice. And Sunday night football starts at 6:30. So it's kind of nice,
And as we go through these matchups, Dustin will probably give you specific matchups he's looking for, some thoughts. We'll try to give a prediction at the end. I will probably be talking about it more from a draft prospect perspective and guys that I've either got eyes on or guys that I think could be in future draft classes that were highly rated recruits that are kind of on my radar for future years. So we'll just start with Cincinnati. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback Brendan Sorsby, returning starter. He actually has enough eligibility that he wouldn't have to be in this draft class. He could be in the next one. They got a transfer in Tawee Walker. I hope I'm saying that first name right. It's Tawee. Tawee. I don't know. Probably butchering it. But he's a kid that transferred from Wisconsin. He's a powerful, thick running back, really good size. And they have Evan Pryor, who used to go to Ohio State. He's more the speedster, home run type hitter. So they've got a nice duo in the backfield at running back. Joe Royer at tight end is one of their better draft prospects, period, on offense or defense. Another Buckeye that transferred to Cincinnati. He didn't play a lot at Ohio State, but, man, transferred to Cincinnati, had an incredible season. Probably could have been a day 2 draft pick last season and expected to have a huge season. And if they're going to beat Nebraska, he has to have a big, big game tonight. I'm talking potentially double-digit catches, 100 yards, a tutty or two. Like, they need Joe Royer to go off. And maybe to an extent, they don't need him to do quite that because of the guy I mentioned yesterday in Jeff Caldwell, the 6'5" transfer from Lindenwood. Absolute beast at wide receiver with that size. And then one guy on the O-line I'll mention is Taron Tayo, guy that Ryan Sparks loved, transfer from Ball State. He is starting at right guard for the Bearcats tonight. I think he played tackle at Ball State, as you can imagine. But this is a kid who's like 6'3". So he was always going to be a guard in the NFL, and I'm kind of glad that he's moved to guard at Cincinnati because I want to watch him as a guard, and see how he does this season. And he may have 2 years of eligibility left as well. But biggest prospect definitely on offense is Joe Royer. I think Jeff Caldwell is going to be a fun college player. And let's see if Sorsby can take another step. He had some good games last year. Yeah. Your thoughts on the offensive side of the ball for the Bearcats? Or any matchup specifically from the Bearcats offense with Nebraska's defense. And then I may mention some of the defense players, but not too many for Nebraska, to be fair.
This is one of my upset picks of the weekend. I am taking Cincinnati over Nebraska for a couple different reasons. Nebraska, has brought in a lot of transfers on their defense. It's a kind of an inexperienced defense as well. So, that's asking a lot on the first game for all those guys to come together. And as you listed some of those players, I love the Bearcats playmakers. Another transfer they got, Cyrus Allen from Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah, I did. I should have highlighted. I remember him from 2-3 years ago. Texas A&M. He's been around a while.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's that was a good get for him in the portal. I think he was like a high, like low, or like a high, like a low 4-star. So he's got skills. I mean, I think what you're going to see in this game is, utilizing the running backs to set up Sorsby. Like Cincinnati does have, I love their zone running scheme. So I think what they're going to try to do is see how they kind of match up against Nebraska because, Nebraska is going to be a very physical team. That role always brings that to see. And I think they're going to want to try to establish a run first and then get some of these receivers and Royer loose in the secondary. So I think you're going to see maybe in the first quarter kind of a feeling out process, try to establish a run first. And then as the game goes on, start to unleash some of these other weapons as well. So that's what I expect from a Cincinnati defense against Nebraska's offense. Like, I don't know, man. I know a lot of people are hyping up Nebraska for a lot of different reasons. I do think their offense line front's pretty solid. I mean, obviously they got the quarterback, but I'm just not crazy about their weapons on the outside. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch there. So with
there's a guy for me, since you kind of flipped it over there. Yeah, Dane Key from Kentucky. I really liked him at Kentucky. They had some terrible quarterback play last season at Kentucky. So he transferred. Barry and Brown transferred to LSU, who we'll talk about later. But Dane Key's like a 6'3", really good body control and things like that. I really like his length. He's not the most explosive or speedy guy in the world, but he's not slow by any means. I think he's even maybe returned some punts. I could be wrong on that because they have Barry and Brown doing that. I feel like maybe he did something a little extra. But I like Dane Key. I'm a big fan of Dane Key. I think he's got to have a huge season. Isaiah Hunter was a transfer. I believe maybe he came from Cal, and he's a guy for a couple years from now, draft-wise, to keep an eye on, but another guy that's projected to be a starter for them. You mentioned the O-line, Elijah Pritchett, transfer from Alabama. He was not very good for Alabama, to be honest, and he played right tackle for them. He's switching over and playing left tackle for Nebraska. Dylan Raiola could be moving around a lot, and he's not draft eligible, but Raiola, obviously, Patrick Mahomes Jr. there, he tries to dress like him and this, that, and the other. Don't know if he's the same talent, but he does have a strong arm. He does have a little mobility. He's an interesting quarterback prospect. They brought in Rocco Spindler from Notre Dame on the O-line, and then Justin Evans is their center, another prospect I kind of have mentioned for them. That's some of the draft-wise guys for them. But a lot of this, as you mentioned, I don't know how good all those weapons will be for Raiola. I do like Dane Key. He stands out the most. on their offense for me.
Yeah. And obviously you're bringing in Dana Holgerson, who's, had high flying offenses his whole career. So that's a good, for Raiola, that's a a good matchup, a pairing there. I mean, he likes to toss the ball around. So I think for tonight's game too, I think there's gonna be some scoring. I think there's gonna be scoring. I'm not calling a shootout because it's the first game of the year, but I expect like both teams to be able to get up and down the field.
Yeah, I could see a high-scoring game too, and I definitely have highlighted more offensive prospects for both teams than I do defense. I'll just go ahead and mention the defense, but I'm with you on that. I think that's what type of game we could see. We could see, and it's the first game of the season, so maybe it won't be because, we've talked about that. The defenses sometimes can rule early in the season. Offenses are still finding their footing. But I could see a game in the high 20s each way for both of these teams, and it wouldn't be a bit surprising, Maybe it goes in the 30s or higher for one of the teams.
Right.
But on defense for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Cameron Lenhart's an edge that I think could be like a 27 type guy that's slightly on my radar right now. I can't sit here and say I've done a deep dive, but he is a player. I do like a bare bones 2027 just to get names up there, and as the season goes, start inputting some information. Makes it a hell of a lot easier than doing it all at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, and then Syer Wright is a cornerback who should probably be in this draft class. He's a kid, I believe. I could be wrong on this because I don't have any notes written down for any of this. I'm sure it's all off the dome. I just have depth charts in front of me. I believe he was at USC, and he's a kid who, one thing that was interesting is like he kind of quit on the team early in the year, but he transferred to Nebraska last year. So he had a good season for Nebraska, but he's a kid who he's talked about wanting to be an actor and this, that, and the other. And I know I have written in the draft guide, that could turn some teams off. You know what I mean? If you're more worried about an acting career than football, I'm sorry. Not saying you can't do both, but shit, man, you ain't even in the league. If that was, and you were at USC, maybe he's more focused now that he's at Nebraska and not in Southern California. But good football player, though, and is worthy of watching for that Nebraska defense in the secondary. And then Dasan McCullough is transferring to Nebraska. He had a really good year 2 or 3 years ago at Indiana as a freshman. He's like a 6'5", 240 edge / safety / linebacker. He's kind of played everywhere. He transferred to Oklahoma, never really did much at Oklahoma at all. So I want to see if he can get back to what he looked like at Indiana for Nebraska. He's scheduled he's a starter at the jack position on this depth chart for Nebraska. So let's see what he can do because he was a pretty good prospect at one point. And he's long, he's athletic. He has those traits. He's just never quite put it together, especially his time at Oklahoma.
Yeah. A guy to add to that, they did pull a 5-star edge rusher from Missouri, Williams Waneri. I was reading some reports on him a couple weeks ago.
They got him listed as a backup, and I don't know anything about him, so tell me about him.
Yeah, so I don't, I was mentioned that Lincoln Cure from Kansas State. He never got on the damn field last week. I was all stoked on him. The guy's a freak, though. I mean, he's a high 5-star. He was highly recruited. A great get for him. From some of the reports that I've seen, he had, kind of like a pretty decent spring. He's 6'7", 265. Yeah. Yeah, so
big boy.
Talking about a dude that could bat down some passes, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how much utilization there's going to be there, but we'll see. So,
hey, and you never know because the guy's second on the depth chart, especially D line. They rotate a lot, and when you're that athletic of a freak, and sometimes they give the edge to. He might play more than Lenhart or some other guys, and if he plays well, he's going to keep going out there. So it's the first game of the season. So I love when you pull these names that I don't necessarily have because I was more just kind of highlighting starters. I love that. We'll go to the Cincinnati defensive players that I have mentioned. Obviously, the Godfather, Dante Corleone at D tackle. I wish he was better against the run. He's big, he's stout, he's 6 foot, 320, 330. He's like a little meatball out there on the defensive line. He's got better pass rush juice than you'd expect for a guy at that size. But he's a fun prospect. Obviously, the prospect point of view of it is the health, where he had the blood clot in the lungs or whatever. Is he going to be okay? Obviously, he got cleared last year, played. and he's back this year. He's been around for a long time at UC. He's a fan favorite and a damn good football player for them. Yeah. So want to mention him. Guys that I don't know too much about, Matthew McDoom was a transfer from Coastal Carolina. He is on my list of someone to watch more of, but I kind of want to see what he does at UC before I dive too deep into him. Antoine Peak Jr. is probably a 27 guy, but that's a safety for UC. And then Jake Golday, who transferred to UC last year, didn't quite have the season that I thought he would. He doesn't look as physical and aggressive when I watched his tape as I wanted him to be, because he's like 6'4", 240. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, you should be out there just wrecking dudes.
Yeah.
And I think he came from Arkansas State, or I can't remember the exact school, but a smaller school prior to Cincinnati last year. So I'm thinking maybe his second year at Cincinnati, he's adjusted more and he's ready to be that leader and take another step, because he's got a lot of talent.
Yeah. It's the battle of transfers, right? Because like we were talking about Nebraska's receivers being transfers. You got quite a few transfers anchoring the secondary for Cincinnati. So it's like, who hit the transfer portal better in this scenario? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely like gonna be. I mean, Holgorsen, that's probably what he's eyeballing in this game, is how to attack the secondary. So and I don't know much up front on Cincinnati's D line, if there's anybody else that can get consistent pass rush. I know Nebraska. The concern for me for this game, if I was a Cincy fan, is Nebraska's O-line. They looked good in the spring by some of the reports that I was reading. Their coaches are excited about that. So them controlling the line of scrimmage, that could get out of hand too, so.
Man, Dustin, I probably need to ask, how long do you have? Because, man, we are 22 minutes in and we've gone through one of 6 games.
Yeah. We'll have to I got till 4:30 because I want to
oh my God.
Yeah, I know. We're fucking up, aren't we? So.
We almost need till at least 5. You need to be able to stretch it till 5, because
I wish I could. Yeah, I have something I need to do, and then I got the 3:30 game starts, or 3:30 my time, 5:30. So I want to get this done before actual football starts. So, but we can fly through the other ones.
Sure. I mean, that one should have been the one we flew through.
I know. Well,
so Texas, I knew, man, when I do this stuff, I really like diving in and talking about all the prospects and everybody.
It's our first show. It's live. It's our first time. We'll be able to time it out better next time.
Obviously Texas, offensive side of the ball, Arch Manning, it's going to start there. How does he do? Limited starts, but he is expected to be the man, whether that's in this draft class, the next one. They got 2 really good running backs with Trey Weisner, 1,000 yards last season. CJ Baxter, who was injured all last season, but incredible as a freshman. I'm flip a coin on who's the better prospect. Obviously, I think Baxter could end up taking that role because he was getting way more hype than Trey Weisner as a freshman. He just happened to have that injury. If he's back to full health, the dude has great size, great speed, great agility. There's a lot he can do. But Trey Weisner's smaller, but he is he plays a lot bigger than his listed size. He also is a really good pass catcher out of the backfield.
Yeah. He's so smooth.
That's one of probably the bigger matchups is their running backs, even in the passing game, versus our linebackers like a Sonny Styles, who I'm very high on as a draft prospect. So we'll kind of kick it off there. I won't go through every player. Trevor Gooseby, obviously, really good tackle. They've got all their line is good prospects. I don't want to name every single guy. And then some good wide receivers with Wingo and Moore. And then they brought in Jack Andrews from Cal at a tight end. He's a top 5 tight end in this class for me. But I think a big matchup to kick off and get your thoughts on the Texas offense versus the Buckeyes defense is those running backs versus guys like Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you see what Texas tries to do.
And it's noon Saturday, yes, not to cut you off, but someone asked in the chat, noon Saturday for this game. Sorry for not mentioning. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, big noon. I mean, nobody really loves that.
Yeah, did not want that, but.
Yeah, it's tied in with the contract. If this was the ESPN game, it'd probably be in the evening, but whatever.
Yeah.
So matchup perspective, this is, again, one of the teams that Sarkisian's a really patient play caller. He'll keep trying to establish the run. with the goal of getting his running backs out in space on the flats or hitting, deep balls once you're committed to this. So from a linebacker's perspective, I think the keys to the game is Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles' eye discipline, because they're going to, it's almost like the Shanahan of the college football, where they run a very complex run game scheme and they get your eyes going all over the place. So you got to be really disciplined with that. I know from a Texas perspective, their right tackle's out for the year. They're replacing obviously some studs that they had up there last year. Their left tackle, I think that you're high on, he's a little banged up too. So there could be an opportunity for disruption from, the likes of K McDonald, Aiden Curry.
Kenyatta Jackson, man, that's a player on Ohio State's defense. To look more at the flip side of the Buckeyes defense, I mean, obviously Caleb Downs, incredible prospect, but Kenyatta Jackson, as you're to go along with what you're talking about, Edric Houston, Caden Curry, the transfer Bo Atkinson from North Carolina, CJ Hicks, who's kind of moved to edge from linebacker. Those guys got to get after it and get after Arch, but he's very mobile. Yeah.
It presents another thing that you want to think about. I mean, in his scheme, there is, opportunities for them to take advantage of the leg. I think taking advantage of your legs in college is always key as well, because the offenses are so spread out. But I'm actually Ohio State's defense is experienced despite them being new starters. I really feel like it has a chance to be an elite defense again. I just, you have a new coordinator, so that's something that, they're always trying to mold and figure out how to use guys. I am excited on how they talked about using Downs a little bit more up closer to the line of scrimmage. That was
what he's best at.
Exactly. They didn't do enough of that last year. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to see definitely Kenyatta Jackson. I'm also interested if they're going to use CJ Hicks. He's the big enigma at Ohio State, where it's they were playing him at linebacker. He's I want to play edge. And Larry Johnson's whole thing is if you want to play on my defensive line, you got to play the run game. Would he be flexible enough to use CJ Hicks on just specialized pass rush? So Edric Houston too, defensive tackle, sophomore. He shows some potential in the playoffs last year. So I'm really excited to see the trench battles on both sides in this game.
Yeah. But even with those trench battles, I think it could come down to a Jack Andrews, Ryan Wingo, and DeAndre Moore versus Jermaine Matthews, who has flashed but hasn't been a full-time starter. And then Davison Igbinosun, who 16 penalties last year is just absolutely way too many. But he's physical, he's long, he's athletic, got good speed. Hopefully, I want to see him take a step, especially for his draft potential. So your thoughts on maybe the secondary versus their weapons before we flip sides to the Buckeyes offense versus Texas defense?
Yeah, we talk. I mean, obviously, we're Ohio State fans. We talk just, us being wide receiver incredible players. Texas got some good receivers too.
Oh, yeah.
So that he is a 5-star. He was up there in the recruiting battles.
True sophomore, flashed last year. Moore is one of the best slot receivers, I think, in this draft class potentially.
Yeah. So with that being said, that matchup with Lorenzo Styles, Sonny Styles' brother, that he's new. He got some playing time last year. I'm really high on him. But we'll see how that goes. And then obviously you said so I do think, I'm glad that you circled that. I think that's going to be an interesting battle in the secondary because, with the run game, it's a hard scheme. It's just a hard offense to prepare for because they can hit you on so many different levels. They can hit you in the flat. They can zone rush. They can do counters. They can hit deep balls. They can hit deep crossers. They just kind of hit you. You got to defend every blade of grass against Texas.
And I mean, I mentioned Jack Andrews a couple times, but if Caleb Downs is in that box and coming out of that tight end position for injuries, that could be another huge matchup for this game and how it's won. Andrews is an incredible receiving tight end. We'll flip over. Ohio State's offense, I think it starts and ends, honestly, with Julian Sayin at quarterback. He's a redshirt freshman, won the starting job. I don't know what he is. I think he's a 5-star recruit originally at Bama. Saban left. He flipped his commitment to Ohio State after he was at Bama. Spent the season last year not really getting very many reps. But, I mean, you got Jeremiah Smith, arguably the best player in college football. Carnell Tate, potentially a first-round pick. Brandon Ennis in the slot. James Peoples scheduled to be the starting running back. But C.J. Donaldson came over from West Virginia as the bigger back, short yardage guy. They got some transfers on the O-line with Ethan Onianwa and Phillip Daniels, who sound like they're battling for right tackle. Austin Saravell played guard last year. He's at left tackle. Luke Montgomery, Carson Hensman, guys that were playing in the playoffs at center and left guard, are back at those positions, along with Tegris Shabola, who was the right guard last year during the playoff run. So, and the transfer of Max Clare at tight end. I mean, the Ohio State offense on paper is pretty loaded, but it's a big question mark when you don't know how much you can get the ball to your weapons with Julian Sayin in his first action against a defense like Texas with Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Cole Brevard, Ethan Burke, Murad Watson. You know, that's just the guys in their front seven.
And Malik Muhammad in the secondary.
And then Muhammad, Taft, Jalen Gilbo, guys like that in the secondary. So take that anywhere you want with the Buckeyes offense and Texas defense, the big matchups you're looking at.
I mean, it's like one of those things like, you know, when Ohio State had to do a lot of reshuffling of their O-line because of injury last year. I mean, obviously Simmons went out. And like we were going against Tennessee, like everybody's like, you know, they're front. There's like kind of a feeling of like similarities with that. I think this is going to be the matchup if like we can get anything going on offense. Like, can we block Colin Simmons? You know, I think Phillip Daniels did win the right tackle position.
He's supposed to play. He's going to play a lot, Ryan Day said, but Onion was going to get in there at some point. They'll rotate. They're one of the teams that rotate on the offensive line. They did last year.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you kicked Saravell out to left tackle too. That's, you know, I was actually really excited about the O-line, and I still am. It just some of like the positional changes a little bit causes a little bit for concern. So I don't know, man. You know, everything starts in the trenches. I think, you know, as far as like a weapon kind of arsenal that we have, like I think with Day and Hartline, they're always usually pretty good. Like if you go back to a lot of debuts of Ohio State quarterbacks, like with Ryan Day, they've always been able to put him in a pretty good position to be successful.
They usually have a little time to ramp up though before they face the number one team in the country.
Yeah, that's valid. And that's the key, right? Julian saying, you know, it's like, how does he process everything? You know, it's like a first big game. Like, you know, obviously he's got all the skills, the quick release, like his arm is really good. He can hit balls on multiple levels. I just think when this game, they just got to really kind of make sure that they're giving him like easy throws to begin with. To build some confidence, and as the game goes on, open up the playbook a little bit. So, and then obviously, like you got to protect them. So, keeping Hill and Simmons, like they're gonna get theirs, but you know, making sure that you can give him ample time for a better percentage part of the game. I think that's the key matchup when it comes to that.
And Cole Brevard's in my top 10 as a D tackle. He's a transfer from Purdue for Texas. And Murad Watson was really good for Syracuse. Yep. So Texas really good with their defensive tackle. So can they run this ball? I don't know too much about James Peoples, but I know that from what I've heard out of Ohio State camp, they're excited about him and think he's going to be a big-time running back for the Buckeyes. So
I like him a lot.
Fun.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're replacing our running backs from last year, Junkins and Henderson, but these guys are supremely talented. I think C.J. Donaldson, he's actually slimmed up a little bit, but still a battering ram. So, I mean, getting that run game going, I do think, Ohio State, like that's good. Like we need to establish some type of run just to kind of obviously give Julian Sayin some breather in terms of like keeping the defense, not just, zeroing in on him. So, I mean, it's the Spider-Man meme, man. Like when you look at these two programs, like Texas and Ohio State, it's like they recruit from the same pool, recruit the same type of athletes. It's just going to be an all-time game. I'm excited.
And I guess we haven't really given our score predictions, but I do want to move on to some other games because we could spend forever on Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah.
We could spend an hour on that easily. But Cincinnati, I'm going to go with Nebraska. You said Cincinnati was your upset of the week. I'm rooting for Cincinnati, but I'm going to go with Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, dinky. I think they find a way to pull it out, but we'll see, man. I think Cincinnati, I would love to see them get the win there. I know they're the underdog, but I think I think that game will be close regardless who ends up pulling it out. And then for the Buckeye game, I'm going with Texas. I'm a Buckeye fan. I'm wearing my Buckeye hat. I got my Buckeye wall over here. I got my Buckeye banner back here. I'm going with Texas just simply. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a good game. But if Arch is who he's supposed to be, I can just see that hype train just being off the rails after he goes into Ohio State and wins. And maybe that's just me being cautious and a little bit nervous about the start of the season for the Buckeyes. But I got Texas. How about you for the Ohio State?
Yeah, unfortunately I got Texas as well.
Man, are we the Buckeye fans? Like Buckeye fans watching this are going to be like, you guys are suck. Both of you going with Texas.
I know. It's like the question with Archie Manning is, I think he's good. Is he going to be great? Like good at first grade. So it's going to be interesting to see the trajectory of his career. I just think like when you have the new coordinators, a O-line that's going against a scary D-line, that always worries me because we see how that can just wreck games, So I mean, now obviously if it's a quarter in and I see our offensive line like holding up, then I might have to flip my pick. It's like it all really is dedicated on like my pick is all surrounded around like how the O-line holds up against Texas defensive front. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, crap. I'm not trying to fool anyone. I'm definitely a homer. I want the Buckeyes, and Texas did lose a lot of players. Sage, you're right. So I think it'll be a good game either way. Ohio State will have a chance. I just think Texas might pull this one out like the Buckeyes did in the playoff versus them. That was an incredible game. I expect another one on Saturday at noon. Then Saturday at 3:30, Alabama, Florida State play. Florida State's not been good lately. They got a good D tackle, Daryl Jackson. Tommy Castellanos is their quarterback, transfer from Boston College. Not sure how good he is. Micah Pettis, a right tackle that needs some work, transferring from Ole Miss. Luke Pettibon is a pretty good center for them, probably a draftable player. They got Squirrel White from Tennessee as a receiver in the transfer portal. And then Deuce Robinson from USC, who's built like a tight end. Dude's like 6'6". So that's kind of the Florida State offense versus the Alabama defense, which Tim Keenan's out injured. So that's a bit of a hit. But LT Overton, hell of a prospect. James Smith, Kelby Collins, Keo Rusal. I love Deontay Lawson at linebacker. He's a bit undersized, but he's a hell of a run defender. He is coming off an injury, so how healthy he looks could be a big thing. I'm a big Domani Jackson fan. He was a transfer from USC, played at Bama last year. He's returned. He's like 4.2 speed type of athlete that is like 6'1". I think he could have a huge year for Alabama in the secondary. Bray Hubbard, Keon Saab at safety, and then Xavier Brown's another corner they have. So any matchups, any thoughts on this Florida State versus Alabama? And I'll go ahead and say I think Alabama will ultimately beat the shit out of Florida State in this game.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend a ton of time.
Yeah, not a ton of time on here. If you want to watch really good offensive line play, watch Alabama. They got some studs up there.
Caden Proctor, Cam Dewberry, Parker Brailsford, Wilkin Formby. Jaden Roberts did have a concussion. Not sure if he'll play, but those are all very good draft prospect linemen.
I think Alabama blue chip ratio is second. So one behind Ohio State. So their roster is stacked. I actually see just total domination like in this game.
Ty Simpson, new quarterback, but been there for 4 years. Jam Miller at running back is out injured, but they got Ryan Williams. Isaiah Horton's a transfer from Miami. Jeremy Bernard came with Kellen DeBoer from Washington, had a good season last year. Probably playing his more natural position as a slot instead of outside this season for Bama. I think their wide receivers should be excellent for Alabama this season.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, honestly, they're going against a Florida State defense. I have two players highlighted. Earl Little Jr., who hasn't done much of anything, and then Daryl Jackson Jr. at D tackle, who's a monstrous size, but his motor runs hot and cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Florida State, despite that, I think they'll be better towards the end of the year. They hit the transfer portal just like Florida State does really hard, but I just think it's, a tough opening matchup to go against.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bama will whoop them. I'll be shocked if it doesn't turn out that way. So we'll go on to LSU and Clemson, the matchup of the Tigers.
Yeah.
And holy shit, this game is 7:30 Saturday night. So your primetime matchup on Saturday night in college football. And man, LSU, I'll start with the offense. I mean, Nuss Bus, I'm a believer. If Arch does go back, if Lenore Sellers goes back, or even if Lenore Sellers doesn't, I think Nussmeier could be the number one quarterback potentially in this class. Caden Durham's not even draft eligible running back, really good. Caleb Jackson's a guy to watch because he's like, I can't remember the exact height, but I know he's like 230, a bowling ball type running back that was a 5-star recruit. He's playing behind Durham. They have horses at running back. And then they hit the portal with Barian Brown and Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, Barian Brown from Kentucky. Aaron Anderson, I love, maybe a top 50 player in this draft class in the slot. He's small, but he plays a lot bigger. Yeah. He's a return man. He's very good. Xavier Thomas, another return man in the kick return game. And then Chris Hilton Jr. Their wide receivers are absolutely stacked, but I think the player I'm most excited about is not even draft eligible on their offense. It's Trey Green at tight end. He was incredible, and he's like 6'7".
Dude, bro. And he runs like a receiver. It's crazy. It's crazy. He makes dudes look like little like first graders when he's out there. It's insane. I love that dude.
Yeah. And IO, man. It's always IO. OHIO, Ohio Game Talks. But yeah, this LSU, man. And then you look at the Clemson defense versus that offense, which is, man, I said how much I love that offense. Then I go and I look at the Clemson defense and I go, oh, Peter Woods. Oh, that's a top 10 player. Oh, TJ Parker. Oh, that's a top 10 player. That's guys on their defensive line. And then they also have DeMonte Capehart, run stuffing D tackle. They brought in Will Help from Purdue, who had 6 to 10 sacks, somewhere in that range last year. Sammy Brown, Wade Woodez, Avian Terrell's my corner one. He's a little smaller. His brother's in the NFL. He reminds me, though, not necessarily of his brother. He reminds me of the kid at Kansas City, their corner, McDuffie. He's just a dog. He's a dog against the run. He's physical, even though he's not the biggest player. He's like 5'10", 180. But, man, he plays a lot bigger. Khalil Barnes, Ashton Hampton. So that defense versus LSU's offense, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm excited to watch it. What do you think might happen with those matchups?
Yeah, I mean, LSU breaking in pretty much a brand new line. Can they hold up for Gus Bus? So again, it kind of feels like the conversation we had with Ohio State and Texas as well.
2 transfers, Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson. Moore from Virginia Tech. I think Thompson's Northwestern. DJ Chester's moving from center to left guard. And then 2 young tackles in Tyree Adams and Weston Davis. It's a brand new line. Yeah. All 5.
You know the interesting thing about, so they switched to Tim Allen, the former Indiana coach, defense, like he's always had really solid defenses. The interesting thing about Clemson's defense, however, when you look at like some of the advanced statistics from last year, their defense didn't really align with like the skills that they have with like Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Terrell at corner and stuff like that. So they do have the names on defense, but it's also like, I want to see these guys be able to actually live up to these names. Like obviously Peter Woods and TJ Parker played really well, but as a whole, the defense actually, when you look at the stats, you're kind of, it's like, oh, really? Like you guys got all these players. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So with that being said, like, I do expect like this game to be another game that is got some points. I really do.
Is it at Clemson? So Chris Crowley's asking.
It's in Clemson.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So it's in Clemson.
Yeah.
What's up? Defense for LSU. I mean, they brought in Jack Pyburn from Florida, Patrick Payton from Florida State, guys on the edge. Dominic McKinley's the guy to watch. Only a sophomore, not draft eligible. Dude's like 6'6". He was on the Feldman Freak list. I started looking into him. 3 sacks as a true freshman. He could have a monster season for LSU, and they need it at defensive tackle. They've struggled there the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But linebackers, their bread and butter. I think their secondary will be decent with Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech and Ashton Stamps. But they got the Weeks boys, West and Whitweek starting, and then Harold Perkins is back, who I expect to move around, do a lot of different things than just a pure linebacker because he's never been that good. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, Chris, when you asked that. I'm like, wait, don't they both play in what's called Death Valley, and they're both Tiger teams? So asking that question, the answer is just yes every time. But yeah, so that's the LSU defense, and then you're looking at, man, a really good, like every one of the O-line guys for Clemson also draft eligible. Blake Miller, probably at right tackle, probably the highest rated guy I have. Cade Klubnik could be a top 5 quarterback in this class. Some people have him as a top 2 quarterback in this class. Adam Randall switched from receiver to running back. He's actually going to be their starting running back, so that's interesting. I like guys that kind of move from receiver to running back. Usually they end up being good in the NFL. But TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, neither of them draft eligible. So they're 27 guys, but they're good receivers that already impressed last year. And Antonio Williams is a top 5 wide receiver in this class. So that's the matchups. What are you looking for the LSU defense, who honestly has been the reason they haven't made it to the playoffs and things like that the last few years, versus this Clemson offense who was humming at the end of the season?
Yeah, if you look at Clemson's kind of, obviously like championships, Trevor Lawrence, if you actually look at, they've always maintained a really good defense the whole time. Some decent back and offensive lines. They really just struggled to maintain any kind of skill position players. So I think their receiving core is getting back to like the T. Higgins days, kind of, so to speak, where they had weapons all over the place. So that's going to be interesting. I just don't. I can't trust LSU's defense. Like, they got dudes there. They're going to use. It sounds like I'm hearing reports that they're going to get Perkins back to how they used him when he was a freshman. So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't know, man. There's just not. There's a lot to be desired when I look at their defensive roster. Now, there are talented players. They're a supremely talented team. It's just their defense has stunk for so long that I gotta see it. So,
they will have to win in a shootout.
Yeah,
it's the only way they win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that Clemson has such good defensive players, as you mentioned. They have struggled though to, like, all that talent hasn't necessarily kept them as this dominant defense.
Exactly.
But my prediction, I am also going with Clemson. Sorry, Pork Chop. I'm going Clemson over LSU, and I could see it being at least 2 scores. Clemson has so much talent. It'll be a bad look on Dabo Swinney if they're not playing for a national title this year, is my opinion. That team is stacked. Most talent, I think, in college football by far.
Yep, I agree. I'm the same.
Next game, probably pretty quick. Virginia Tech and South Carolina. I think South Carolina will win, but Virginia Tech, Kyron Drones at quarterback. Terrian Stewart is a running back I really, really like.
I like him.
He's a transfer from Bowling Green. He's very fun. He's an older prospect. He even had a season that he just chose not to play football in there, so that's always a little concerning. But I think he'll have a big season for Virginia Tech, who's had some good running backs lately. Benji Gosnell at tight end's a very fun tight end. Tomas Rymack is a transfer from West Virginia on the O-line. And then on defense, Ben Bell, Kelvin Gilliam, Jaden Keller, Caleb Woodson, and Dante Lovett is a 2027 guy. That's probably their best prospect. He's a cornerback, very good athlete. That was very impressive last year, even though he's playing behind Mansour Delane and some of their other talented corners. He was still rotating in a lot. But South Carolina, I mean, it's all about Lenore Sellers. That kid's phenomenal. He's such a fun prospect. I love watching him. And then Nick Harbor, can that freak of an athlete take the step at wide receiver? So that's what I'm looking at on that side. And then on the defensive side for South Carolina, I don't think they're near as good. And I could be wrong. Maybe they just got guys I don't know about. But Dylan Stewart's a phenomenal pass rusher, so I'm not worried about him.
Yeah.
I love that kid. I was watching some of his tape the other day, even though he's not going to be draft eligible this year, and I was like, man, I got him over Colin Simmons. I'm just saying, for 2027 at edge, because he's so damn explosive. And I love it. And then their secondary is kind of, to me, their best. They got Judge Collier at corner. They've got Jalen Kilgore, he's kind of a corner / safety. I think he's their best prospect on defense for the draft this year. And DQ Smith, who's played a lot of football there. Your thoughts on the overall game? I got South Carolina winning in a landslide, but wanted to give some love to some of those prospects.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm really excited to watch Dylan Stewart again. Like the dude, like didn't even look like a freshman last year. He has pass rush moves. Like he's like fully developed already. Ohio State was trying to recruit him hard. I think he was like shortlisted and went to South Carolina. I don't know if they gave him a package or not. And obviously Lenore Sellers, high up the list. He was always exciting to watch. Just kind of burst on the scene a little bit last year. And so it's going to be cool to see him take the next steps. Virginia Tech, man, these are one of the brands that you actually want to see do well. Just going back to the Beamer days, and just
Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Who let the dogs out.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So, I mean, they got the quarterback Drones. I think they had a lot of high expectations for him last year coming in, and he just didn't really perform that well. So hopefully he can kind of bounce back and show something. I know that they brought in a quarterback by the name of Pop Watson III that might be competing with him. So, they might have a short lease on Drones. And they got they always have a few guys on defense. I think they got a defensive end. I can't think of his name right now. He transferred over from somewhere. So there's a couple guys to look out for, but yeah.
Oh, Ben Bell.
Ben Bell, yeah.
Yeah, and Ben Bell is like a ginger with real long hair, and it's just like the flow, the vibes and the flow is magnificent.
Yeah, magnificent. Just South Carolina in this game. I mean, it'll be kind of interesting. South Carolina were in a lot of games last year.
They had a good season. They almost played for
the playoffs. Yeah.
They were in the mix, but they did lose a lot of talent on the defensive line.
They definitely did. Kennard.
But they got the best defensive line still there. Kennard, TJ Sanders. There was another D tackle that I can't remember if he got drafted or undrafted, but he was a prospect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I predict South Carolina in the game. Just too much.
Yeah, I'm going South Carolina all day.
Yeah. I think Virginia Tech's just one of those programs that I want to see rise back up again. Hopefully they can figure out some stuff in the future. It's just one of those brands that were like pretty prominent, like growing up. Unfortunately,
I want to say I didn't mention that. I want to get it in. I know we're getting close to time, and we got one more game, but that game is Sunday at 3:00.
Yep.
South Carolina, Virginia Tech. So Sunday.
Yeah. It's a fun Sunday game. It's a fun Sunday game. It really is. And
then there's another Sunday game, more in prime time at 7:30, and that's Notre Dame, who Ohio State beat for the national championship, but a great season by Notre Dame. And then the Miami Hurricanes had a good season. Cam Ward's not there. They bring in Carson Beck from Georgia. I'm not a Carson Beck fan because he sucked last year, but can they, in a new system and a new offense, can he rejuvenate and be a better player? CJ Daniels was another receiver that was LSU, previously Liberty. He's at Miami now. Enes Cooper on the offensive line at guard. And then Francis, I've heard it's called Malanoa, like a silent N in there with a G. I'm still going with Malagoa, but I think it was Todd McShay that said Malanoa, and Todd McShay obviously knows more than me. But that guy is a first-round prospect all day, every day at right tackle for them. Yeah. They replaced one Elijah and Elijah Arroyo at tight end, who was a second-round pick, with Elijah Lofton. I don't think he's draft eligible, but good prospect. Guy that will be on my radar to watch, see how he does this year. Mark Fletcher Jr. at running back for them. It's like 6'2", 225, 230. Mm-hmm. Big boy, big running back. Had a good season last year combined with Damian Martinez, who off to the NFL didn't get drafted, but I like Damian Martinez. Mark Fletcher, though, there's a lot of things I like and a lot of things I'm worried about. He don't have necessarily the burst. The vision is very inconsistent. So I'm a little cautious on Mark Fletcher, but at sometimes in college football, you're 6'2", 225, you're going to have some good games. So you're just bigger than everybody. So that's kind of the Miami offense. And then the Notre Dame defense, they're replacing a lot, but their secondary specifically, Aiden Schuler, Christian Gray, and the man Leonard Moore. And I'll give a little love to Devontae Smith because our buddy Santori coached him and he was at Alabama. Now he's at Notre Dame as their nickel corner this year. Drake Bowen at linebacker, Jalen Sneed, Osbury, Boubacar Traore is the guy to watch on the edge. They've got names, but I think the best thing for Notre Dame is that secondary. Leonard Moore is the shutdown guy. Christian Gray is a pretty good corner.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, like Moore's not even draft eligible for this year, so he's a 27 guy. Gray could go in 27. Schuler probably coming out this year. I like him at safety. So, yeah, your thoughts there on Miami's offense versus Notre Dame's defense. I think this could be one of the more low-scoring games of the weekend, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, Miami's offense, a solid offensive line, transfer receivers, Carson Beck. It's hard to predict how that all gels together against a Notre Dame defense that's talented. I think they're actually defensive line's got some players on there that are going to emerge that got a lot of playing time last year. So, I think I agree with you. I think it's going to be more on the lower end of scoring. But yeah,
maybe or Notre Dame boat races them, one or the other. Like I can see either Notre Dame completely blast them or it's a low scoring, fight it out game. Either way, I think Notre Dame wins, but I think it could be a low scoring, battle it out game for at least a couple quarters.
I think there's going to be a lot of ball control. Obviously, Notre Dame's backfield, it's like in their offensive line, they're going to want to establish the run. They got to, first, their quarterback just coming out with his.
That's why I said that. Even though I really like Ruben Bain on Miami's defense, I started looking at the Notre Dame offense. The offensive line, even with Wagner and Anthony Knapp, Billy Schroth, Ashton Craig, very solid. A lot of guys who played a ton of football for them last year.
Yeah.
A lot of continuity. Then they added Malachi Fields from Virginia, who's like 6'4", incredible wide receiver. Jordan Faison's back in the slot. Actually, I think he'll play in the slot. I don't know. Greathouse plays in the slot a lot too, so we'll see how they use those guys.
Yeah,
but Greathouse was incredible against Ohio State.
Oh man, I was like, he just tore us apart in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, but there was you mentioned Jeremiah Love, who running back one by far.
Yeah,
but Jadarian Price is a draftable prospect, and Aeneas Williams might be one of my top running backs for the 2027 cycle. They are loaded there. CJ Carr, grandson of Lloyd Carr, he won the starting job. I think he's is he a redshirt freshman, sophomore? He's a very young player, kind of like Julian's saying.
Yeah.
But, man, they've got a lot of pieces on that offense. The more I look just at these rosters, to be honest, I think Notre Dame winning big in this one, Dustin.
I could see it too. I kind of see like
Carson Beck throws 8 pick sixes. He's still Carson Beck. It will literally be up to Carson Beck to look like a different player than at Georgia.
Yeah, he has to step up to wherever he was projected a couple years ago. Obviously fell off last year without having the weapons at Georgia. I think he does have better weapons, surprisingly, at Miami than he did at Georgia for this year. So we'll see if he can take a step. But yeah, I just think with Notre Dame's ability to deploy those running backs and control the game, and their defense with Carson Beck trying to build rapport with his receivers earlier in the year. Yeah, I do think Notre Dame handles this game. I could see it being like a 28 to 17 or something like that.
Yeah, I could even see 35 to 10. I could see it getting.
Yeah. I could see
Notre Dame winning. So
this will be a good game to watch Trench play though too. Both lines on both sides of the ball for both teams are really solid. So there's a lot of good dudes on those lines.
Yeah. So we went through 6 games. You guys can go back, like and subscribe on YouTube, do all those fun things if you would like. If not, then fuck us, right? But I'm most excited, obviously, about Ohio State, Texas, especially looking at it from a draft perspective. Wow, talent everywhere. But the other game that is right up there with that one is LSU Clemson.
Yep.
Holy shit, prospects there. And the other games we talked about were really good, but those 2, wow.
Do you know another good 2 more sneaky good games? Maybe not as riddled with NFL prospects. Auburn Baylor, I think is going to be really good.
Yes, it should be. There is a lot of prospects with that one.
Yeah.
I just missed that one, honestly, but we didn't have the time to cover it anyways. But
Yeah,
yes, good call.
And then Friday night, Colorado and Georgia Tech. I love the brand of the brand of football Georgia Tech plays. I love as a college quarterback, Haynes Keys. I love him. So that's like a fun Friday night game.
Their running back is really fun. Georgia Tech's running back. Is that Jamal Haynes?
Jamal Haynes, yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Jamal Haynes is really fun. And then Baylor, Sawyer Robinson, I think, could be a good quarterback. They got a good receiver, Josh Cameron. That's a sneaky good game. I like that call out too. So 2 great call outs, man.
Yeah.
I love this show. I don't know if anyone in the chat, because we're Bengals and Brews, like this. But I don't want to start a whole nother college football show, guys, and do more graphics. Can I just come on here sometimes and talk about college football and draft and be excited? Is that okay? Because I really enjoy it, if you guys can't tell. This was fantastic.
It was fantastic. And listen,
for me,
the average life expectancy these days is around 78 years old through modern science, medicine, and technology.
What if you rip Peters and drink beers?
Yeah, we're not dying on the side of the road from a cold at 20 years old. And some drifter using our skin as a blanket. I say that to say you don't have a lot of time in your life to watch football. There's only so many hours. There's only so many minutes. There's only so many days. So strap in tonight. We got football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, full weekend of football, awesome players, a lot of I think 4 top 10 matchups. So it's going to be incredible. Have fun. Get in there.
So excited. Hey, if we lived closer, we'd be those guys on the couch that I tagged you in. We'd just be laid back watching ball with pizzas on our laps.
That's the heaven I'm going to.
That's the heaven we're looking for. Just nonstop college football.
Yeah.
With the Bengals and the Buckeyes winning championships each year.
Yeah. I mean, obviously always Bengals. It's nice for college football to kind of take advantage of this weekend, though. I actually think what they should do is add more games to that week 0, and dominate the first 2 weekends.
Yes, there should have been more games last week. And I was at the Bengals preseason. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know that they want their kickoff week to be when the Bengals, or not the Bengals, the NFL in general is off. You know what I mean? So they're big. There's so many big games. I'm so excited for this weekend. So they did set it up for that. But yeah, I would love to come home from a long day at the mall and the Bengals game and had a college football game on that I wanted to watch last weekend at night. That would have been.
I don't know why they didn't. They could have taken advantage of the Sunday. I mean, it was we had all this football on Saturday, and then Sunday was just this blank slate.
Nothing. Sunday game, and now we have Sunday games this week. So it's why didn't we have one last week? I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are an hour and 3 minutes in. Thank you, Dustin, for coming on. As always, you're part of the show, so it's honestly I don't have to thank you anymore. But thank you guys for tuning in. That was fun. And I'm ready to. I mean, we're less than an hour from Boise State.
Yeah.
Playing South Florida. So look